And then that's when we entered that sort of interesting wilderness, the journey to, Stranger.
Right.
And that was, when you and like Steve and a lot of our other friends were like the next generation,
right.
To come on board. And that's when we went on that Stranger journey, which was, that
was a strange journey, but
okay. Now remind me again, brother, when did you start on Stranger?
When I came in, it was relatively, the project was pretty far along.
Okay.
I came in 2004, and we didn't finish it until 2005. I think I was on it for a little over a year. I think it was something like that.
Okay. So I think Eric Yo, he could tell us. Yep. I think you just missed the big reset for that project.
There was some kind of reset. Yeah.
So we're telling stories.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you some more stories here.
We love stories.
So basically, that project started out. Stranger's Wrath started out. I don't know if you knew this. It started off as Munch's Exodus.
Oh no. Okay.
Because Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, Munch's Odyssey, Munch's Exodus. That was the idea. And it was going to be Abe and Munch going on another adventure. And it was all pretty loose. And it stayed loose for a while. And at some point, I can't remember exactly when, Lorne Lanning cooked up the idea for Stranger. He had this idea that it started off with him, I think, as like the centaur form.
Yeah.
And then somewhere, I think there was a concept of like, well, what happens when he goes into a town? Well, he disguises himself and he looks kind of like a cowboy. And then that became developed into his alternate persona,
right.
His cowboy persona. And then that's became Stranger's Wrath. That's the beginning of it.
Okay.
But what exactly how the game was going to work was really just, okay, we had the idea of it's first person, third person. You've got the crossbow.
Right.
It's going to shoot critters.
That on its own, nobody had done, right? Like the first and third,
crazy.
Like that was
insane. It was completely unprecedented. And also to have two sets of mechanics. It wasn't like, okay, he can still shoot in third person and also still be acrobatic in first person. It's like, no, when you're in third person, it's game A. And when you're in first person, it's game B.
Right.
Like it was very unusual. It was very different. But of course, it's a testament to the programmers and the designers that were there who managed to make that thing work.
Right.
So anyway, so it was like all these ideas, like, well, how are we going to make this work? And so what happened was maybe it was publisher mandated or whatever. I remember there's a string of big demos, and the demos seem to have gotten bigger and bigger. Like there's these big valleys and canyons, and they're so big it's hard for the art team to even art it. By this point, I had stepped over to character art. I was no longer a world artist,
right?
Because during that, when the company had kind of shrank down, the character artist had left, and there was an opening, and they just said, "Well, would you be interested in doing character art?" I'm like, oh, "Sure, sounds fun." And then, so Stranger's Wrath was my first character art job, and that was actually it was a total blast. It was just a complete, great, really great fun time. And but still, we didn't know like what is this thing going to be, and we went through like I think 2 or 3 demos, and they got kind of worse and worse because we're really crunching hard to make these demos, and we end up with like it's just not fun. Doesn't make sense, and I don't know who did this. I don't know if it was Eric Yo, who was the lead designer,
right?
Charles Bloom, who's the lead programmer, or Ryan Ellis, who's the lead artist,
right?
Or maybe it's a combination of the three.
Though.
Dream team. Oh well, yeah, we had to visit that.
Yeah,
the talent that was there.
Oh my god. Yeah.
If you look at where they've gone since,
yeah.
I mean, amazing. So I don't know which of those 3 dudes did this or how this exactly came about, but someone said, "Stop. We're putting the hammer down. We got to figure this thing out."
Yeah.
And I remember, I kind of feel like I do know that Eric Yo had to have been one of the linchpins.
I think it was Eric. Yeah, that sounds like something he would do.
Something he would do because he just built. He said, "I'm no art. I'm just going to take we're going to build these pieces, these blue grid textures, so we can figure out scale.
Yep. And
I'm just going to build this compound." And what we think we had the characters, like the Outlaws. Remember those guys?
Oh yeah.
And we had the basic crossbow. We had the Stranger. We had his squirrels and chipmunks and stuff. And we had the basic pieces, but we don't want to worry about anything else. And he was just going to drill down, and we're just going to iterate on this until we get the classic,
let's find the fun.
Commonplace now. Let's find the fun, the classic vertical slice. I remember we just kind of stopped, and it probably didn't last that long. In my memory, it was like weeks, but maybe it was a couple of days. And he drilled on it, and he had everyone play it, and we all gave our feedback. And he went back, iterated, came back, play tested, feedback, and it was what we should have done. It's what the thing you want to do in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's sort of commonplace now, but it was just whatever the process the company went through. at the end of that, I remember one day we're all like, "Hey, this is fun."
Nice.
Like you figure, because he came up with the loop, right? You come in, you scope it out, you see where everybody is.
Yeah.
To come up with, so it's Far Cry, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like, it was Far Cry before Far Cry. It's actually, when you think about it, it's like, oh, actually, there was a lot of really cool stuff in the thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, that became the reset button, and then really the game just flowed from there. It was really amazing.
Nice.
Because that became the first encounter of the game, and everything was basically a variation on that. So I think that's when you came on board, and others got up to speed.
Right.
At least that once that template was set.
Yeah.
I feel like from speaking for myself, I felt like we kind of cruised.
Yeah.
To the end from there.
So I'm pretty sure they kind of cleaned the design house before that, right? Like, wasn't there like the designers, like shortly, because like when I came in, Jack was there, Dave Freed was there, Gotham was there, Steve was there, and Eric was there. And so I came in as designer number 6, and I replaced someone in particular, but I know there was some kind of like just major change that had happened leading up to that, but I never really heard kind of what had happened or whatever. I think it just wasn't work.
For that particular one, I won't say names or anything like that, but I think for that particular instance, I think it just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And we just needed just a new perspective.
Sure.
Because that team had, they had gelled well, and they had, stemming from what Eric had laid out, everything seemed to be flowing.
Yes.
And then you came on board, and you're like the final piece of the puzzle.
I like to think that.